There are just a couple other things I want to say. First of all, I'm looking at what you're sending me in terms of your lesson plan, and I'd like you to change it a little bit, just to kind of help you get focused on what exactly you want students to know and be able to do after your teaching. So it's sort of the same, but I wanted you to list what your learning objectives are, what exactly you're working towards. So for example, this big book instruction, I gave you some examples of what I thought might be your learning objectives. Well, here's where you would write those. And then create a routine. Something, is it a 2-day routine you do? You may work all 5 days on that book, like the book about the truck. Well, what exactly are you doing those 5 days, and what's the routine? And then the 9:30 to 10, which seems to be the skill training where you have centers. I'm wondering if you don't have 3, let's really just create centers, the real thing, where you have the group and you say, center 1, you're going to do this, center 2, you're going to do this, and center 3, you're going to do this. And center 1 may be your work, like the rhyming work that you were doing specifically, and then they are sent to center 2, which is the center where they practice the rhyming, and that might be with the eggs where they're writing the words down, and then or sorting pictures based on initial sound. And then the third center could be the writing center, where they are given something very specific to do in terms of the writing. It could be their sight words. It could be that you have them dictate a sentence, and then you cut and paste, put the sentence in order, and they write the sentence. There are lots of things to do there, but that would be the one where they could do it really independently. They could do independent reading, so you had them reading the book to themselves. Well, that would be a good activity for that as well. I also noticed the twins, obviously, I was getting a little hot under the collar too, watching them bounce, bounce, bounce. But I noticed that they were on task when they were reading, when their eyes were to print. They like reading a book they can read. So that's a good activity for them. They also would be on task if they were doing an activity they could do, they understood and could do. When they went to the center to do, whether it's, I don't know what the activity was, they didn't know how to do that. So it's got to be something they absolutely can do. They had trouble with blending, so they couldn't do that, and that's why they weren't on task. They needed more supports. And they were also on task when they were writing. So they really like to write when they have, thank you, the right supports. And then when they were looking at the book, when you were doing the picture walk, when you got into it, finally after getting all, just get right to it, they were looking at the things in the pictures and talking about it. So they do these things and they're on task, which is really good. But I think you have to depend on your behavior management system a little bit more. And you have one. It sounds like you have the red, yellow, and green. But you have to be very clear about what the expectations are. So I am suggesting that for each of the activities, this is why routine is so important. For each of the activities, you have expectations. When you start that shared reading, you say, we're gonna read a new book, and there are 4 things that you're gonna do today, and I'm gonna be watching for them. You're gonna predict what happens in the story. You're going to read the new vocabulary words. We have about 5, and you're gonna read the book with me. We're gonna read it together, and you're going to answer some questions. So those 4 things, and that's what I'm looking for. Everybody starts at green. And then after you do that activity, you either take them to yellow or you keep them at green. And if they go to yellow and they get all upset about going to yellow, you say, you have an opportunity to get back to green. We're now going to go to this next activity. So guided reading, I'm going to expect 4 things. I want you to write your sight words. I want you to read the book with me. I want you to talk about the book with me, answer some questions, and then you're going to practice your reading skills. I'm making these up. You may have a different set of skills, expectations, but that's how you start, and then you're looking at the green and the red as you work through. And so at the end of the day, they need green. If they are yellow, then perhaps they don't go outside. And I kind of hesitate to do that, but you might have a chart that just says how many days of green. So if I get this day of green, that's maybe all they need to motivate them to do better. I'm not sure that punishing is that's not probably where I would go because they need the outside. But I would keep a chart of how many days out of the week I was green, how many days I was yellow, and maybe there's a reward at the end of the week for people who are at green all 5 days. So I just think you have to be much more routine so that they know the expectations and you can refer to your green and yellow chart. All right, I think that's it. I'm going to send you this as well, and then I would like to schedule a time to talk. So anyway, it's great it works so well to watch, and I know it's nerve-wracking to have somebody on a video watching you while things seem to be going a little bit crazy, but there were some really good things that happened, and there were some things that I think that you can improve upon with some really solid goals and objectives and solid routines for these kids. So, okay, I'll email you and we'll find a time.